I want to talk about reasons for shrinking economic base in United States and in particular in Orange County where I live, and I see some of these hidden factors. I think that sometimes the economic the stream or the way the economy is functioning has some hidden factors, some hidden mechanisms that a lot of mainstream economists they miss those trends or those underlying factors, and things change slowly over time. People they don't notice that. I think that the economic basis or the volume of economic transactions or money flow or velocity of money, um, it's it's diminishing in this area, and some of these have to do uh, with immigration and also the aging of the population, because I think there is a if for example if there is in an area there is a large percentage of the population is made up of kids, then the kinds of stuff they buy and they use is different than if, for example, we are in an area which is like here, and a lot of people are aging, or they're over 50 years old, or even older, because kids they tend to buy a lot of consumer goods, clothes, games, fast food, and a lot of toys, a lot of and also a lot more of cars and mostly consumer goods, and less into investments and jewelry or fancy stuff. So when a population becomes older, for example, right now, Toys R Us has gone bankrupt. Well, one reason could be that the owners were stupid and they loaded up the company with all kinds of debt. But also another reason, when companies they really lose their motivation for continuing to do business, is because their profit margins have shrunk. They don't have as much volume, but the infrastructures that they built from the past, it still requires the same amount of maintenance. So the owners or the corporations, they kind of lose faith in it, or that part of the business that you have to actually sell something and repair something and get paid from the consumers, it loses its significance. So, for example, in the case of Toys R Us, they went into the business of rigging the market, the price of their shares, and then they loaded up the company with debt. So these areas, other areas, became a more significant area of revenues than the economic day-to-day economic transactions or buying and selling things to consumers. So a lot of companies in the United States have become something like that. They're like this giant shell that does a little business here and there. I think something like that happened to Radio Shack too, because Radio Shack used to sell electronic parts, but it was a retail price. But then when the eBay caught on, and you could buy a lot of the computer or electronic parts or chargers or stuff like that off of eBay, and you probably get it directly from China. And so kind of the base of their business, the most elemental part of the business that was selling parts at a good profit margin or retail price, it shrank and died. So the business, the shell remained, and the owners started playing in the stock market, and they kept the business going because it had a reputation or a share price and stuff like that. So what I'm driving at is that a lot of the companies, this is actually what's happening. For several reasons, the economic base is shrinking, and one reason is because of the aging of population, and also because of online sales. The other one is that just like eBay, the consumer has become smarter and also is able to buy the same stuff that he used to buy at retail and pay a hefty price. Now he or she doesn't have to go run around all kinds of stores. Just order it off online, and also get a much cheaper price. So this is really important because the day-to-day income, the day-to-day money that comes in from the actual consumers that walk into the store, or being able to sell products at a good price, not at cut price, but or wholesale price or online price, but at the profit margin, it matters. I think then another source of revenue is that, for example, Starbucks said that they're going to close 100 or 150 stores, and at the same time I heard that their stores, they were closing them for 1 or 2 days to train their employees to be tolerant of minorities. Well, I have had the running with the Starbucks, but I'm just using them here as an example. One hidden factor for shrinking of economic activity is because of deep hostilities. For example, in Orange County is basically white WASP neighborhoods, and then they are pretty hostile to blacks or other minorities. I see that Americans' kinds of racism doesn't show up as like verbal attacks, or what it does in East Coast, but usually in more well-to-do places is more economic. So it's being like outcasted or isolated, and then one can kind of reason that the reason that people are not frequenting a place like Starbucks as much is because the regular crowd that goes there, they're white, and they don't they befriend the foreigners or blacks as much. So the place got an atmosphere already, it kind of repels everybody else. One reason is that, and then the other reason is hostility towards Spanish or immigrants or Arabs. So you don't see too much of these people coming in. They kind of have their own little coffee shops or places. But I heard also that the number of Mexicans that are leaving the United States is like far exceeds the report I was hearing was one Sunday morning was like 3 times as many are leaving as they're coming in. So actually, the either legal or illegal immigration is shrinking or has shrunk for the last several years, but the public is still thinking, oh, they want us so much, but that's not true, and that's one hidden factor. Also, that the immigrants, they have more kids and they buy more stuff that's consumer goods, and the economy really is 70% consumer goods or services, and then it has damaged the local economy. While the also a hidden factor is like decentralization. Like for example, myself, I buy a lot of stuff just from online. I don't go into the stores. That's terrible for local business because first of all, before when I was buying stuff locally, I would have to go buy gasoline and drive around and find this stuff, and I, I would have to spend money here. But with the online, I just order it, it just shows up in my mailbox or by my door, and then the money is leaving the local economy. So the places that used to be upper middle class or wealthy neighborhoods, they're becoming like hollowed out shells because the only money that's coming in are monies that the retirees get, or the local businesses that have survived, they get. For example, I see here, I don't want to mention the mall name. It located in a very nice place. It used to be very busy, but the mall is almost empty now, and this trend has been going on. Then another problem that the local economies are collapsing, even very well-to-do like Orange County economies are collapsing, is because of hostility towards Arabs and Spanish people, and the courts or the government is especially hostile, and this extends in all areas. But usually when foreign investment happens, it's like a businessman. He comes in and he invests in a store, a little store, and hires employees, and then the rest of the family shows up. There's a lot of kids and grandmas and all that, but the local population, the white, especially the women, they are especially hostile and repel these foreign individuals. So there is no integration into society. Society is like one group on this side, and then the rest. And also the courts, they usually take sides with white or citizen, and then it's much harder if there is problems, which could be anything, could be family or relationship with the customers. Then the foreign investors, they are not who invest in local economies, they're not as welcome. And also there is a very hostile attitude towards new immigrations, and so the economy gradually is migrating from a really wealthy economy that money was inflowing and people were inflowing into an area, into a more stagnant economy where it's mostly the money that comes in to like military or retired people. And so, well, many areas they have such economy, like many rural areas, they're nothing special. So what happens is that, or what has been happening is that the rents are collapsing, even though the property values are sky high. The, it's much harder to rent these properties, and then when the rent values collapse, then then the people they can also migrate outside of these areas that were formerly congested into more rural areas. So what I think is happening even in a very wealthy counties like Orange County is that there is net outflow of people, a net outflow of consumer spending is going to online, and then there is a net loss of investment in local economy by foreigners, that they invest in things that the locals usually don't buy or don't have an interest. Well, I was used to be a taxi driver. I hang around Disney, and for example, a lot of the money that comes into Anaheim is money that Asians bring in. Asians are very wealthy, and Arabs, and they, for example, the ticket itself is like $100, but they spend money in restaurants and in shops all around. I saw a bunch of Russian, I think Koreans also are wealthy. But when you get out of Anaheim, it just kind of dies out, and then when you go around Knott's Berry Farm, it's not as well-to-do, and you see pockets that are not as wealthy, and it just seems like a rundown. I think this trend is continuing. The other thing that hurts the local economies is the endless militarism and hostility towards certain governments. For example, well, I'm Iranian. I know about Iran that there's so much hostility, and it stops transfer of money, transfer of persons. A lot of the money comes also into local economy from people that they're tourists. For example, I'm Iranian. I would have liked to bring a family and they visit and then go. They probably would spend money. They have money, and but I haven't been able to do that because there is so much animosity, and the government and all the idiots there, they keep it in such high tension at all times. So people kind of avoid that. Many Iranians, they go to Europe. For example, I saw pictures. My mom, she married former Iranian ambassador, and they had gone to vacation to London. He had money, but I'm here in Orange County, and Orange County can compete with London in price and attraction, but then we have done such a great job with immigration hostilities, and then I think that things are even going to get worse with imposing tariffs on foreign goods. The harder the government or entities make relationships with foreign businesses or tourists, the worse the local economy becomes. Also, we are suffering from extreme decentralization because a lot of stuff is manufactured in foreign countries or bought online, and it's very sad. I think the collapse has happened, but just there is so much history. Either people are still in the past or hide it, and they don't see that, hey, this this place is not really a very wealthy place that it used to be. And those are some of the underlying reasons I think that local economies are suffering. Is one is aging, the second one is hostility toward foreigners, militarism, and somebody is afraid to come around or spend money here. And then also extreme decentralization, uh, and what else? There probably is a few other hidden factors. Oh, kind of pervasive kind of white racism that kind of repels other people. Like I said about the coffee shops, I think the latest one that's showing up is that because of the activities of NRA and aggressive gay lobbying, that the people are very reserved in using public places because they might get targeted as in mass shooting or get targeted by like anti-Muslim or extreme deviant behavior. Uh, well, most of my stuff is research, and I study and look at the things a little bit more deeply. Please subscribe and leave a comment. Thank you.